let's see what we're doing.
Fairy gardens.
Fairy gardens, yes, and I'm your speaker, but we have somebody that is going to get a laptop. Okay.
So how are you doing? You're set up?
Hopefully,
You all
okay.
wanted here?
Oh, you got a minute. You can hurry.
Do you want me to go on a food run? Or? Well, it's 10 o'clock. It'll be 10:30 before.
Well, the Con Suite is open. They have like Pop-Tarts and granola bars and bars in there.
Good morning. Here's my own private laptop.
You rock.
Here's your USB over here.
You'll set that up for me?
Yeah, I'll set mine up.
I'm not techno savvy,
Yeah, don't worry about it. We got
other
it
than
covered.
creating the program, I'm okay, but yes. I work with a lot of families, so I don't do a lot of,
You have a lot of kids there too.
Let's get something.
of the PowerPoints, because
yeah.
kids are like this all day anyway.
I know, right?
So, yeah.
Delegate.
I usually keep them moving,
Yeah.
the kids.
You have handouts, all right?
Pardon?
Handouts?
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember.
Why don't you start putting the handouts while I set up the computer?
Okay, it's all good. Hold on a second, let me get my, I am, but the doors are closed. Okay, good, okay.
Yeah,
Soon.
what I do here isn't much.
Okay.
It's expensive.
Welcome, everybody. Let me just do something really quickly. And, oh yeah, we'll be okay.
Would you like me to get you a volunteer to hand out the pamphlet?
No, I'll do it. Going native in your fairy garden kind of sounds risque, doesn't it? It's all good. The baskets that we created, the charity for the auction tomorrow, we did the same thing. So we got a Hooters basket, owls, pecker basket, okay, woodpeckers.
Okay, you know our sense of humor now.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to pass out handouts, so I have something to do.
Would you like some help?
I don't think it's necessary. And guys, you know where we are, so you know that there's bookmarks down there, which has all of our contact information on it. Yeah. And I didn't bring a bat in the room because you know we have a bat down at the display. I should. We'll do that this afternoon.
Oh,
That
yeah.
program. We're doing a back program this afternoon too, right? Hi. Okay, okay. Okay, huh? How are you? I hear you. You rock. There we go. Is that the right one?
I believe it's the only one.
Well, it's the only one, yeah, okay. So I guess it's the right one then, isn't it? Okay. You rock.
Do you need like a laser pointer or something? You got
I don't need a laser pointer, just tell me how to
advanced.
Yes.
I'm going to recommend these arrow keys.
these arrow keys. Okay, we'll have fun with that. Won't we?
Unless you'd like a different way to advance.
No, it's okay, we'll do it.
Beautiful.
Okay, so, my name is Menno Van Scoik. Most people know me as Mrs. Van, and I'm the founder of Ohio Nature Education. We started the organization 28 years ago, next month, and basically we have permits from Division of Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and now USDA to provide a home for about 50 wild animals that cannot return to the wild. We used to say they were all non-releasable and permanently injured, but now we have some exotic animals. For example, the snakes that you'll see. I could, by law, with my permits, go out and catch some snakes from out in the wild and keep them for education, but why do that? There are plenty of reptiles looking for homes. So that's where we get into non-releasable, but they're exotic. So I bought the snakes, I bought the tarantulas, and whatnot. We also have some captive bred birds that are retired. Thank you so much. Okay, that are retired falconry birds But regardless of whether something was born in captivity, like today I brought Bert with me. Bert is an American kestrel. He was born in captivity. He could fly, but by law, if he was born in captivity, he can't go back to the wild. Okay, so that's basically what we do. What do we do with these animals? We travel all over Ohio and teach people of all ages to appreciate nature and wildlife. A lot of obstacles for our wild animals, okay? Loss of habitat. 90 to 95% of the animals that end up in wild animal hospitals are human related. That's not to make us feel bad, but it's our windows, our cars, our cats, our dogs, our rat poison, things like that. So that's what we do, is we teach people that we need nature, appreciate wildlife. We're not the only species that live on this planet, so how we treat our planet affects our wild cousins. We're not animal rights activists. We're not anti-hunting. I'm anti-poaching. But basically, it's just a reminder of how to impact wildlife in a positive way. All right? So today, we're supposed to be talking about doing a fairy garden. You take care of the fairies, and I'll tell you how to attract the real life. The fairies, the dragonflies, the damselflies, the butterflies, the hummingbirds, the hummingbird moths. So that's what we're going to do, is talk about attracting wildlife to your yard. You decorate it how you want with your little fairy stuff, okay? All right, so that's what we're going to do. I like to be informal, so by all means, stop and ask questions. If we're going to discuss it in depth later on, then I'll say, hold on a bit. And that's what we're going to do. How's that sound?
Great.
All right. Woo-hoo. Now, if technology will work with me, we'll be okay. All right, let's see. And that's a logo that my sister created for me. Okay, well, I already told you this part. This is my backyard, okay? I run it, the organization, out of my backyard in Licking County. And just to give you an example of how big these enclosures are, this is the red-tailed hawk right there. Okay, so we keep expanding. Nothing is in the front yard except for landscaping. We have to be careful of the backyard. Number one, I'm occupying all of these, and we're still expanding. In fact, yesterday they finished off a enclosure, they being my volunteers. I'm very, very lucky. I don't have a lot of volunteers, but the ones I have are quality. So they finished off an enclosure for Allie the opossum that was here yesterday, the little spoiled brat opossum. I designed it differently this time. I said, I want her to have indoor area and outdoor area. And one of my volunteers says, Mano, I have never in the 20 plus years I've been with you heard you say that. I said, you know how I tell you I can't sleep at night? That's what I do when I can't sleep at night. I think he wants to get me sleeping pills, okay? Because we never run out of work, okay? And this summer we'll be building 4 more bird enclosures too, okay? All right. And if you guys ever want to come out, if you're from Ohio, want to come out and visit, just email me. Say, hey, we met at AnthrOhio, and come on out. Okay, so our mission statement, educate and encourage people to impact wildlife in a positive way, and that we need nature. If I could get somebody to design a nice we need nature tattoo, that'll be the next tattoo. Okay, but I can't find anybody that... And I draw stick figures, so there's no sense in me trying to do it, but we'll get it one day. This is Bellatrix. That's my Eurasian eagle owl. Okay. Some of these pictures are so old, it's not even funny. Okay, 4,900 programs for more than 844,000 people in more than 23 counties, permanent home for 50 animals, blah, blah, blah. Okay, creating a fairy garden, attracting wildlife to your yard. Okay. What do you think is more attractive for wildlife? Yeah, guys, they say that lawns are the biggest brainwashing in America. When did we start that? Happy horseshit. Okay? Think of how much gas, how much time that we spend mowing. Okay? So I keep saying to my neighbors, because I bought a rectangle. Guys, I have less than 2 acres, okay? But we bought a rectangle. And I can't tell you how many trees we've planted. We're constantly planting and planting. If I had the money, I would have somebody come in and put in a meadow or a prairie with paths through it. Now, I don't live in a neighborhood, okay? So I don't have to worry about an HOA. I just have news for you though. HOAs are getting taken into court and they're losing. Okay? Guy, yes! Listen, you're not always going to win, but you're not going to be one of these, doormats that says, oh, what difference does it make? Listen, when I moved from Northwest Columbus out to Licking County, which we're out, I live outside of Johnstown, but I have a Johnstown address. And forgive me with some of my editorials, welcome. There's a couple of handouts up here if you'd like them, okay? We call it Intelville now instead of Johnstown. Okay, here's the thing, when I first moved out there, there's another one if you want, if you don't want to share. When I first moved out there, and I moved from Northwest Columbus, okay, all right, we hadn't been out there a year, and we used to have the Johnstown Independent, we don't anymore, and I read, Phase 1 of Bennington Highlands done, Phase 2 and 3 coming. We went to our trustee, or our, township meeting, and Phase 2 and 3 did not go through, because we changed it, that in order to build in our township, you had to have 3 acres. No developer is going to sit there and do that. So bye-bye. Okay, I've been to some meetings in Johnstown where we stop developers from Columbus. Are we going to do it all the time? No. But speak up and go to these meetings. If you get a no, at least you tried, right? So HOAs are starting to lose. There are tricks that you can do by getting signage and getting certified by the National Wildlife Federation that you are creating pollinator habitat. And a lot of these guys are being put to the mat and saying, no, they're creating habitat in their yard. So, do you know in Minnesota they will pay you to create pollinator habitat? Guys, I'm going to, on this last page are a lot of Facebook pages to follow. The one that I find really interesting is Heights Native Pollinator Pathway. It's in Cleveland, and you know what they call the hell strips? I never knew they were called hell strips. Between the sidewalk and the roadway, someone started where they were creating monarch butterfly habitat. And now it goes for a few blocks. Here's what they do. As everybody's walking their dog at night, oh, look at this beautiful little patch. Oh, well, yeah, I will tell you what to do, and I will give you some seeds and whatnot, but you can't, you have to plant natives. So this is something, they even have a Facebook page and a following. So guys, be that person that starts this, or plant something beautiful and share it with your neighbors. But anyway, this is what we're going to talk about, is planting. Yes.
I had about monarch butterflies.
Yes.
What are the best things to attract them? If you want to have that kind
Milkweed. They are specific to milkweed. Don't do the African milkweed. You can do swamp milkweed, and you can do the common milkweed and whatnot. And a lot of your soil and water, your county extension offices will actually gather and give you seed. There's a lot of programs out there, guys. Okay, if you can't find something, email me, okay, through the website, and I will get you the resources. Yes?
I was going to ask, you said the signs were what?
National Wildlife Federation, but there may be others too. Again, in Licking County, where I'm from, we have Licking County Pollinator Partnership. Look to your extension offices, okay, and I can help you find that. But there's going to be something very important from Audubon, National Audubon Society, that will help you with all of this, okay? Shall we go on? But imitate nature, for God's sakes. That's a monoculture. That's nothing, okay? Now get rid of our lawns. Okay, whether you have 1/100th of an acre or 100 acres, food, water, shelter, space. Guys, I lived in a condo. I had these incredible birds, different than on my 2 acres in a rural area. But you can still do it, okay? It doesn't matter. I don't care if you live in a high-rise, all right? You can make a difference on your balcony. It's just food, water, shelter, space. All right, let's talk really quickly about bird feeding stations, okay? How many of you feed birds? Okay, Very good. Just make sure that you clean your feeders. We'll talk about hummingbird feeders. So let's not bring them in and not be good caretakers and spread disease. So if you start finding, a dead bird here or there, okay, think about it as daycare centers. I used to work at a daycare center when my kids were young, and finding a little refrigerator full of bottles of pink amoxicillin. We're bringing them all in together to swap germs, okay? Same thing with the birds. So every once in a while, we got to clean out our bird feeders, okay? And we're not using harsh chemicals. What I want to point out to you is that tree is a dead tree. It's called a snag that my daughter and I planted. It was laying down. That's the rule, okay? You don't take a dead snag that's standing, knock it down and put it in your yard, but it had fallen down. Why did we plant a dead tree? And I've done it more than once. Tara's here and she can tell you, we did this on Mother's Day. That is very attractive, first of all, not only to hang plants and feeders on, and that's a rose-breasted grosbeak on that feeder. Gorgeous bird and beautiful song. They'll be here real soon. But there's a lot of value for insects, woodpeckers. Somebody's going to make a home in there. Woodpeckers are the carpenters of the bird world. They don't reuse their nest the following year. Okay, good. House wrens, bluebirds, chickadees, flying squirrels, whatnot will use that home. So I had read an article about how important dead snags are by Julie Zickafoos. If you follow her, she's an author. And so that's what we did one Mother's Day. Okay? So, and I've done it twice. And my neighbors think that we're okay. They don't think my husband's bizarre. They think I'm bizarre, which is okay. Okay? I mean, because when you look in my backyard, I've got enclosures full of wild animals. But one day when we were planting a dead tree near the pond for the kingfishers to have a place to sit, my neighbor went by and he rolled down the window and he said to my husband, Jim, I don't think that tree's going to make it. And I know they yucked it up and down Riley Road. It's okay. I don't care. It's all right. We can't all be the same. All right? All right. So different kind of bird feeders. Some birds feed on the ground and nest on the ground. Some at the middle canopy. Some in the top. Same thing with bird feeders. All sorts of bird feeders out there. Don't bother buying cheap mixed seed, from your, dollar store and whatnot, because they're just going to kick that stuff out, okay? So, put out peanuts, you can put it out on your railing. There are ground feeders, upside down suet feeders, that's keep the starlings, okay? Ooh, look at that beautiful red-winged blackbird. Guys, I don't want to know how much Jim and I spend every year on birdseed. I don't have any grandkids, and I'll never have grandkids, okay? Which is cool, because I'm going to spend my money on my 2 cats, my 2 dogs, and my birds in the yard, okay? All right, different feeders. If you want good advice, go to Wild Birds Unlimited. And just because I like to be up front, all 4 of the Wild Birds Unlimited in Columbus support us. So, but I'm not telling you that because they do support us. I'm just telling you they're the experts, okay? So they can tell you if you're having a problem with this or that. They're the experts, okay? All right, so let's talk now about natural food. The big thing is don't plant invasives, okay? Do plant natives. Why? All right, and I just threw that in there so I could. All right. The majority of insects are specialists, meaning they can only reproduce on plants which they have evolved, which are usually native plants. Monarch butterfly lay their eggs on what? Milkweed. Caterpillars eat what? Okay, on we go. Now the butterflies will take nectar from all sorts of plants, okay? So non-native plants often lack the necessary chemical compounds or structures that native insects require for reproduction, okay? The vast majority, 90% of insects will reproduce only on plants with which they share an evolutionary history, in other words, native plants. All right, they're self-sustaining. No wonder some of our not native plants, we have to add this to them, and we have to do that to the soil, and this and this and that, because they are not native. All right, now if you go to Granville, what are the shrubs that grow there because they have acidic soil? The beautiful shrubs. Is it azaleas? that have these beautiful flowering.
Hydrangeas?
Oh, that, I don't think it's hydrangeas, but what do we have to add to if we want to get our hydrangeas to be blue? I think it's iron. Somebody told me one time that if you take old iron nails or cast iron frying pans and actually put them in the hole, I don't know, and then put the hydrangea over it, but it's okay to plant non-natives, but it should be 70% native, 30% non-native, and 0% invasive. Thank you. You rock. Thank you.
I think it's copper.
Okay.
For,
Copper? Okay. So guys, stop and think about it. It would be like if we traveled to some of these other countries and we're not used to that diet. I have news for you. I try to travel, Tara and I try to travel as much as our purses allow us to. Not much, but when I go to some of these other countries, I have to tell you, I usually end up getting sick because I'm just not used to that food. Well, we're doing the same thing with our plants and with our insects and whatnot. So they've evolved for many years. So it's okay to 70 or more native, okay, non-native, but 0 invasives. We're going to talk about that a little bit here, okay? Okay, here are, well, how am I supposed to know this stuff? For me, I go to, and guys, we can Google, okay? I put in invasive plants, Ohio's invasive plant. There we are. Ohio Department of Natural Resources, discover and learn plants. Okay? So it lists the invasive plant. And I have news for you. Once upon a time, years ago, ODOT used to sell invasive plants. Years ago when I started. Well, I thought they were the experts, okay? And whatnot. Guess what I did? I came home from a master gardener workshop, started kicking all these plants that we had just planted. My husband's looking at me. But I had invasive honeysuckle, buckthorn, all that. He said, we just plant. Well, no, we can't. Those are invasive. So whatever state you live in, like I said, and if you need me to do the research, email me. That's fine. But each of your states is going to have the list of plants that are invasive and that you don't want to plant. And I bet it's a lot of the same of what we have. Now, here's what's really cool. You go to Audubon.org and you put in native plants. And this should be in your handout. You put in your zip code, it will tell you the annuals, perennials, shrubs, and trees that are native to your zip code. Not only that, they will list the nurseries where you can get that. And more nurseries are popping up that sell only native plants. I have a lady near me. She's a nurse and she has her own wellness center. This is a hobby that she started. She has a nursery and you cannot believe the price that she has. She's in Sunbury, Ohio. I believe she's listed on here if she's not. But these people are doing this for the good of the planet, so it's awesome. All right, so good resources out there. All right, so this is what mine looks like, your local Audubon, and it'll tell me Audubon, my Grange Insurance Audubon Center in downtown Columbus, and then it will tell me my nurseries, online retailer, order, other resources and whatnot. I mean, they're walking you through it, guys. Okay? All right. Here's something I did not know. All right, so we go, oh yeah, I love echinacea, okay? I love coneflower. Coneflowers are supposed to be good. When you go to the store, and if you see a name in quotes, that is not a true cultivar. This is man sitting there and going, but wouldn't it be cool if we crossed this with that and that with this? That's not a true cultivar. You want a true purple coneflower. So just be aware of that. Also be aware, the big box stores, okay, do not buy at the big box stores. They use chemicals that is going to kill our butterflies, our bees, and all of the insects. Yes?
Real quick, I used to work at a company that grew microgreens and specialty produce and all that. It's a big company that sells usually a lot of seeds, but Johnny's is a really good seed company to use. They
Okay.
have a lot of really good stuff.
Yes.
And you can like track exactly what you want. They will sell you
Yeah.
exactly what you ask for.
Yes.
And like they have all kinds of variety. They're great place to find seeds.
Yeah. Ohio Prairie Nursery, guys, there's all sorts. Again, email me. I will tell you where I get some of my stuff, or I'll do resources for you. But yes, there are wonderful places. Just watch those big box stores of what they're doing, and using neonicotinoids, and basically you're thinking you're going to attract pollinators to your yard, and it's killing them. Who knew? But watch out for those cultivars. Again, you want a purple coneflower, fine, and you want to get this cute little one, the Chiquita, that's fine, but don't be getting it from the box stores. All right? Questions about that? Just be careful. I'm lucky. How many of you are from Central Ohio? Have you been to Baker's Acres out in Licking County? Woo! I have to escort myself out of that. Okay? Yeah. Whoa, yeah. They've been around for years, but it's dangerous, and I'm very close to that. Okay. Let's keep going. This is just some of the things I've put in my yard. So I have shrubs. Let me back that up for a minute. Okay, that is, anybody recognize that plant on the left? Trumpet vine, but it spreads like crazy, but hummingbirds love it. Okay, I've planted things like chokeberry, chokecherry. Oh God, guys, there's lists everywhere. Serviceberry. The list is viburnums, you name it. Okay, let me make sure I didn't skip a slide here. Okay, let's talk about hummingbirds, and I'm cheating here. We don't have those hummingbirds here in Ohio, okay? We only have the only nesting hummingbird that we have in Ohio and in the Midwest is the ruby-throated hummingbird. Now, okay. We do have every winter, every fall, other species that show up, and usually they stay until about mid-February and whatnot. We actually had to have a talk with, we being a friend of mine that actually works up in Michigan. He's a big hummingbird expert and bander. And it's when I was on the board of the Ohio Wildlife Rehabilitators, he got in touch with me and he said, would you stop telling the rehabbers to stop trying to catch these hummingbirds that are here in the winter? There's nothing wrong with them. They know to migrate, and by mid-February, most of them do. So I said, go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I don't have any power over the rehabbers. And he did, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife sent a note to the rehabbers of leave them alone, provide them with nice, warm nectar every morning, but they will migrate. And he has all these years and years of records that they will migrate all on their own. Now, this picture is of two birds in my yard, which are both ruby-throated hummingbirds, okay? And man, are they territorial. They have their favorite little spot, and how dare you go to that feeder? Well, I've got 5 feeders, knock it off, and plants, but very territorial, and you'll hear that, and then you'll see the U. Now, that could be male, get out of my habitat, or it could be woman, look, I'm looking for a mate, or that J thing in the okay? So let's talk about attracting hummingbirds. Okay, use a combination of plants and feeders. Use mass plantings. Hummers are visual. They like bright flowers, red to pink, orange to yellow, but it has to do with how much nectar's in there. It doesn't have to be only red. Yes, they are attracted to red. That's why most of our hummingbird feeders are red, but they'll find it, even if it's a copper one with just little red feeding cups. You can use flower beds or hanging baskets. This is the difference between, but I live in an apartment or a condo, or I have room to put in a lot of beds. Hanging baskets works too, okay? Fuchsia, whatever, all right? They love places to perch and observe, again, plant natives for them. Okay. Get a feeder that is easy to clean. The ones I like look like flying saucers, okay? I can lift off the whole thing, okay? It's a 4-to-1 solution. Here's what I do, okay? 4 parts water, 1 part sugar. I double that recipe and I have a Kool-Aid pitcher, okay? And what I do is I will bring it to a little simmer or a boil, and then I stick it in the Kool-Aid pitcher and I store it away in the refrigerator. Now, if you lived in Arizona and had all these hummingbirds fighting over your hummingbird feeders, you could put that much in your hummingbird feeder, okay? Only put that much in your hummingbird feeders, okay? Because you're going to clean it out, all right? If it's 90 degrees and your feeders are in the sun, you're your cleaning every day. If it's in about 80 and parts shade, parts sun, every other day, okay? If it's on your porch and in the shade, you can, clean out maybe every 2 to 3 days. But be vigilant because we could introduce fungus and molds and they will get sick and die, okay? So let's be vigilant. If we're going to attract birds, let's keep our feeders clean. We've said that twice now, okay? So I usually don't go any more than maybe 3 days if it's in the 70s, once it starts getting summer and whatnot. And if there's one out in the middle of my backyard, which is full sun, I change it out every day. So why put that much in there when you have to dump it, okay? But make sure that you clean out any mold and whatnot that's gathered because of the sun. And just keep it clean and refrigerate your nectar and whatnot, okay? Any questions about that? Don't go buying that red powdered or liquid stuff that has red dyes in it. Make your own, okay? Yeah. I don't know. Let's see how much sugar goes up in price, right? And we don't put honey in there, and we don't use brown sugar and all that. Just nice straight sugar. How are we, by the way, with time?
Great.
What time do we go to anyway?
11:20, according to the schedule.
Till when?
11:20.
Oh, well, okay. I got plenty of time. Okay. All right, so they're called Humzingers. Easy to clean. I mean, you can get a bottle one, but get a bottle brush. Okay. There are these little teeny tiny brushes I buy every year, and where they disappear, I don't know. So I get myself pipe cleaners. But every time I pull out a pipe cleaner and put it on the windowsill, my cat Miles knows that it's there. Isn't that sweet? It's amazing. I always lose the brushes. I'm starting to wonder if Miles is not stealing my little hummingbird brushes. But hey, pipe cleaners are cheap. All right. Look at that. Now, see that plant? Verbena bonariensis. A lot of verbenas. It's not native, but it's not invasive. And I was walking out of Franklin Park Conservatory one day, and I see what they call the clear wing moths. People go, that's baby hummingbirds. Baby hummingbirds can't fly. All right, they are clear wing moths, or we can nickname them hummingbird moths. And I see all of them all over this plant. I marched back inside and said, what is that plant out here? It isn't annual, but it's self-sowing. It's not invasive. This plant. Verbena, okay, so V-E-R-B-E-N-A. And guys, I don't go around talking scientific names, but when you start getting into plants, you need to. Verbena bonariensis. B-O-N-A-R-I-E-N-S-I-S. Verbena bonariensis. It is an annual. Guys, it grows really tall, okay? But I put it in one of my flower beds, and I just let it self-sow. But all sorts of things show up on it. Butterflies, hummingbirds, you name it. So that is an immature little male, and I can tell it's going to be a male because look at the throat. Okay? The males are the ones with that ruby throat. What's that? Hummingbird nest. Yeah, and it wasn't from my yard, by the way. Every year I say I'm going to find a hummingbird nest. I get too busy to follow one. But anyway, that is something that I have in one of my programs, okay, that someone gave me. Now, guys, before you think somebody stole their home. Okay, bird nests are not their homes. Once they raise their young, they don't. Now, when you start getting into bald eagles and red-tailed hawks, they'll reuse nests and whatnot. But that hummingbird, once it was done with that nest, it probably went back to the same branch or the same tree, but someone actually gave me that. And it was a gentleman that was at one of my programs, and he said he and his 2 daughters set up a hammock in between 2 maple trees, and they would sit there and watch the hummingbird coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. I said, please tell me you've got video or photos. He said, no. I said, oh. Anyway, so pretty cool. Unbelievable. Have any of you ever found a hummingbird nest? Mm-hmm. They use plant down, lichens, and spider webs. So And guys, it reminds me of a beanbag. Now they mate, and then the male goes off, okay? So she builds the nest and takes care of the young. So while she goes away, that little cup kind of closes down, around the eggs. Can you imagine how small hummingbirds are when they're first born? God, that would be unbelievable. And then as they grow, it kind of gives and whatnot. But she comes back in and kind of pushes herself down. And actually she's using, a brood patch on her stomach to keep the eggs and the young warm. Nature's awesome. It's just incredible. So I have to tell you something. So I was at a program one day, and the gentleman said to me, "We have that hummingbird nest if you want to follow me home." And I know, right? So I followed him to his house, and he gave me the hummingbird nest. And I was telling my sisters that, and they said, when Mom and Dad told you not to follow or get in somebody's car, and they said, "Candy," or "Help me find my puppy," I guess they should have told you hummingbird nest. It was all cool. All right, so, yeah, I know, it sounds crazy. Okay, water. This is when we first moved out to our place in Licking County. That's Mr. Van. He's a saint, by the way. And before we even unpacked boxes, I had the bird feeders and bird baths up. So you can do bird baths. You can do heated bird baths. Come on. Or you can do a pond. So that was a very wet area. Guys, this was 30 years ago. So all those little trees are huge now. My yard doesn't look anything like this anymore, okay? But anyway, we had a very wet area there, and I said, let's put in a big pond. But Mr. Van is that I'm the helium balloon, and he's the one that says, let's start with a little pond and whatnot. And I need that in my life, okay? And this is the big pond that we put in, okay? And if you'll look over to the left of the wheel, you see that dead tree? That's another tree that we planted for the kingfisher to come and land on, because I put goldfish and bass minnows in there for him to come and eat, okay? It doesn't look like this anymore, because guess what? When you plant water lilies, they need sun. Well, my trees have grown huge now, okay? So it's mostly shade. But look at the little frog that shows up. And your frogs, your dragonfly, your damselfly, your toads, your bluebirds, your tree swallows, all those are your insecticides and pesticides, right? You don't need to put chemicals out there. There's a gray tree frog. Okay, these are some of the dragonflies. Why do we want dragonflies, by the way, other than they're cute and so awesome? Yes?
They catch mosquitoes.
Yeah. And there are actually, if any of you ever experienced black fly season, like in Minnesota or Canada, they land right there. You can't even get away from them. There are festivals in northern Michigan and Minnesota and Canada that actually have dragonfly festivals, because dragonflies are a big predator of the black flies. And they know when the dragonflies show up that they'll be eating a lot of black flies. Guys, this is all from my yard, okay? All these different, okay? And they fly around with these legs, there's the kingfisher, with really brushy legs and fly around and catch all these insects. They're incredible, dragonflies and damselflies. All right, that's my kingfisher that shows up. That's my dead tree. And if you see the branch that's at a very, right angle, I actually put that on there because the kingfisher wanted one that sat over the pond. Guys, you don't have to go that far in this. You can take a saucer, a plant saucer, put it on the ground, okay? Get a bucket, put a little pinhole in it, fill the bucket, because birds like dripping, moving water. Or you can go to Wild Birds Unlimited and get a mister, okay? Or a dripping system for your bird bath. It all depends what you want to do. I tend to take things to the extreme. That's why I have gym, right? And I'm getting older and more tired. It's like, okay, I'll get a heated bird bath. How about if we do that? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay. So you don't have to have a 25-foot pond put in your yard. You can do the same thing. But there's little misters. My sister found out just by a bad leak between two hoses one day that was spraying out all over the place. She happened to be sitting on the porch. Here come the chickadees, the nuthatches, the little hummingbirds all going. It's a happy accident, right? Okay, so you can buy those misters and those drippers, or you can just take a little old bucket and have it drip down in, okay? Into a saucer, whatever you want to do. But know that they love moving, dripping water. And that's a very, very bad picture of money showing up. But I love it when a plan comes together, okay? My husband thinks I'm nuts. It's all good. It's all right. I've documented over 135 birds on my property. There's about 425 in Ohio. So I'm doing something right. I love it. And then you spend all that time and energy, and guess where they go? In your mud puddles. Whatever. Who cares? All right? That's all right, my goldfinches. Okay, but don't feel bad if you have an old gravel driveway with holes in it and whatnot. That happens to be a puddle club of tiger swallowtails. Okay? I've seen those down in southern Ohio where there was more sand. You can do it too. I had at one point, a butterfly garden, and I took and I dug a little hole and I stuck a bowl in it so it was level with the ground and put sand in it. And when I was watering every morning, whatever, I would put a little bit of water on the sand. These puddle clubs are actually, there are nutrients there from the receding water that the males get that turn into pheromones to attract the females. So when you see a whole group of butterflies, a lot of times it's going to be a male puddle club. You know, it's kind of like maybe men hanging out at the local establishment. I don't know. Okay, I can't interview the butterflies, but they're getting their pheromones and whatnot. It's really pretty cool. But it cracks me up because you put in all this stuff and they end up in your mud puddles. It's all good. All right? They know better than I do what they want. And then you end up with geese. That poop all over the place. They eat poop. By the way, what is that disgusting green stuff in there?
That's duckweed.
And it is not disgusting, is it? No, it's not like, ooh, algae. Okay, we'll talk about algae. Don't let me forget. As the great blue herons and the green herons showed up, and the wood ducks show up, as they're moving from body of water to body of water, they bring that duckweed in there. It's not harmful or anything. Now, if you don't want, and you decide to put in a pond, you don't want a bunch of algae, instead of putting that aqua-colored algicide in there, what you can do is, they started out by putting bales of barley straw in ponds. Then they started selling at garden centers, this big, little block, and putting it in a mesh bag. You can now buy barley extract. You pour it into your pond. Okay? So barley straw or barley extract. You're not putting in that aqua shade and stuff like that. But duckweed is not a bad thing to have. Okay? And the birds are bringing it into you anyway. All right, let's keep going. Here's another way. This was a Mother's Day gift from my daughters. Little fountain. Okay, for the hummingbirds. You know who really liked it? My dog Penny. Okay, whatever. We share. Okay, shelter. So in our screech owl enclosures, we put up screech owl nest boxes. You can buy screech owl nest boxes. The same box might be called a kestrel box. I have an American kestrel with me today. They're both the same boxes. You put one in your woods, might get squirrels, might get screech owls. Put the same box out in an open area, you might end up with an American kestrel. Do me a favor. There are plans out there if you're crafting. And again, I can be that resource for all different plans for different size boxes. Do me a favor. We're not buying from the big box stores because they don't do their research, okay? And sometimes they will sell these boxes that are death traps for some of our birds. In other words, if you buy a bluebird box, it'll have on the panel that has the hole in it, little notches so that when the little birds, they can climb out. A lot of times, the box stores don't care about that. They just want you to buy their product. Again, there's the Ohio Bluebird Society, the North American Bluebird Society. There is the Purple Martin, the North American Purple Martin Society. There are the proper resources out there. If you can't find it, email me. I will do the research for you. Okay? Let's buy good products for these animals. But shelter doesn't have to necessarily be in a box. Okay? It can be by planting trees. These trees are huge now. Okay? All sorts of trees. Trees. That is a nest of, what was it? A chipping sparrow. A mourning dove. They make lousy nests. They think putting down 8 sticks. Oh, okay, I'm worn out. I built my nest. They're not known for their wit. Okay? It's all good. That's a baby mourning dove. Okay? There's our chipping sparrow. Robin, whatever, on and on we go, yeah. Little fledgling. What's that bird? Okay. What about killdeer? Can you tell me anything about how they nest?
They're on the ground, aren't they?
On the ground in gravel. Yeah, and one was checking out the driveway yesterday. My husband is going to cry, okay? Because you know they get the right of way, right? So I block off my whole driveway and tell people drive around it. Okay? Because look at those eggs, how well they blend in. And of course, what do they do if you're walking around your yard and you're anywhere near their eggs or their young? No, they pretend that they have a hurt wing. Put the wing out, put the leg out. Oh my gosh, what's wrong? And they're leading you away, and they're leading you away. Okay. All right. Again, you may be in a neighborhood. Your neighbors don't like this mess. That's not a mess. That is habitat. Okay? There we go. National Wildlife Federation, Certified Wildlife Habitat. More and more local organizations can get you. I think Audubon might have a certification program where you send in and say, I planted these trees, I have this type of water, this is what I put in. So right now what I'm doing is, because I do live out in a rural area, I have brush piles everywhere. But basically when I'm walking around the yard before we start mowing, I have 3 river birches that I planted, but I actually put all of our twigs and branches that we find around that, and it's wonderful habitat. Well, let's say you don't have a lot of acreage, and you've got neighbors that might go, make a little brush pile somewhere. Okay? You can put a little brush pile out near the garage or somewhere. It doesn't have to be like what I do. But, you know, that is cover for a lot of animals. Okay, attracting butterflies. Again, you're imitating nature. They need a lot of sun, okay? They need, first of all, a lot of sun in order to bring up their body temperature to fly. And it would be great if you had some kind of wind blockage near your butterfly garden. You can use rocks for basking, okay? They'll sit there and bask. Provide a place for puddling and water, okay? Guys, the whole thing is we have to quit using chemicals. You know what blows me away? Is we've got all these lawsuits against Roundup, but you can still buy it. Right? Yeah. I believe I saw a stat somewhere that most of us, if not all of us, have some kind of Roundup in our bodies. So I live in a rural area. That I used to be more rural. Okay. I have farmland all over me. I have my water brought in. I'm sorry. You can tell me what you want about the chemicals not showing up in my water table. And my pets and my husband and I get the water brought in, and that's what we drink. And you know what kind of blows me away? And just kind of ignore my editorials if you're not into it. But I had a red-tailed hawk that ended up with a broken leg. I mean, like I've had her for years. I took her to the vet. She ended up with bone cancer. Where's the red-tailed hawk get bone cancer from? So, you know, it's nice that I'm in a rural area, but what are farmers spraying on our fields and whatnot? So if you can avoid using chemicals, there are alternatives out there. You can use Dawn dishwashing soap, vinegar, what's the other, salt, to do a lot. Again, I will be your resource, but there's stuff out there on what you can use to keep pests down and whatnot. Just if you want to have pollinators in your yard, you can't use, I don't even use weed and feed, okay? But when you are looking at attracting butterflies, you need to have the nectar plants and the larval plants. So what is the larva, the caterpillars eating? So you got to look at that. So I plant dill, fennel, parsley. What is the most valuable tree that attracts more insects and caterpillars? Anybody know?
Collard greens.
Tree. Well, right, we find out because, oh, they like it. Do you know what tree? Oak. We'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, but when you're looking at butterflies, you've got to feed the caterpillars, okay, and the adults. So you're going to need the nectar plants. Okay, be careful. You plant fennel in your perennial beds. Woo, it's going to spread all over the place. So I plant a lot of that stuff in with my herbs. Okay, yeah. I think these are checker spots. All in my yard, guys. This is all from my yard. Now, oh, look at this. What's that plant? Butterfly bush. Now, if you talk to wild ones, they'd smack my hand. I no longer have butterfly bush because they say it's invasive. I don't believe in Ohio it is invasive, but some places it is. So I no longer plant butterfly bush. If you have it in your yard, it's okay. We don't live in a state where it's going to be, okay? Oh, look at, there's that verbena. Verbena again, that's a skipper. One of the swallowtails, again, years ago from my butterfly bush. Butterfly bush. Okay. Well, if you really want to go overboard, and you really want to attract moths and butterflies, and you have, well, you don't even have to have kids to do it. Let's have fun. You make something called mung. Mashed bananas, stale beer, brown sugar. Put it on your counter. Make sure that the lid is not on real tight because it starts fermenting and it might poof all over your kitchen. I've done programs like this before, okay? Take a paintbrush, an old one, paint it all over your trees. Go out there at night and it attracts the moths. We use black lights. I've done programs where I've taken, are there any kids in this room? Oh, you are not a kid. I'm talking about a toddler. You know how many of those I talk to? Too many. I love this because you guys are adults, but I like doing adult programs, okay? But so there are times where I think we need to get away from kids. And so I've done these programs before, and guess what? We act just like kids, but we sit there and we put black lights up, and then we had a telescope out, and then we planted mung, and we were out there. We put a sheet out with that black light, and all these moths were showing up, doing photography, catching them, identifying them. So if you really want to go berserk, you can contact me. I'll give you that recipe. But I have handouts specific to attracting butterflies, hummingbirds, the whole bit. But my daughters and I, that's how they grew up, doing that kind of stuff. What'd you do last night? Well, my mother painted mung on the trees, and we looked at moths.
What time of year? Spring?
Spring, yeah. And if you're near any water, that's even better. Riparian habitat. Okay. More. Okay. Plant it, and they will come. Oh, by the way, that is common milkweed. Okay. Look at that beautiful little thing. Woo! Okay. Where eggs are laid. Again, this is on my, I believe that's parsley and then dill. Okay? Yeah. So this is one, yeah. And so this is one of the swallowtails. Okay, this is one of my gardens. Stepping stones, that little, somebody made those, by the way, and you can take, you know the burdock, the big leaves? Big burdock leaves. You know what I'm talking about? The stuff that, well, that's how Velcro was made. Stuff that gets stuck in your dog's hair. Okay, so I went to a workshop one day. Okay, big burdock leaves, this big. Mix up some quickweed, cover it, okay? And it makes these nice little dishes, decorative, okay? And it holds water in your gardens, but whatnot. So this is one of my pollinator gardens. So there we go, that'll hold water, whatnot. Butterfly feeder. All you gotta do is put out rotten fruit, rotten bananas, oranges. You have apple trees or crabapple trees, they fall. What's all over there? All sorts of insects, bees, butterflies, okay? But you can get a little feeder. These actually you can put nectar in, but it's 8 parts water, 1 part sugar, okay? That is what a monarch egg looks like on milkweed. And when you first start doing this stuff, it's like, are you it? Are you it? Are you it? No, that's just, so, almost like the color of white corn and conical shape. I used to raise them. This is where our above ground pool used to be. The kids didn't use it, they moved away. And I ended up with a whole bunch of gray tree frogs having an orgy in it on the winter cover, which had caught rain. So a friend of mine, and that's my bat box back there, okay? And the yard does not look like this anymore because now there's enclosures back there. But a friend of mine bought a house and it had a hot tub in it, and he turned it into a bog garden. So just about the time I was going to reach out to Tim and say, how do I turn my above ground pool into a bog? It sprung a leak. So my neighbor came over, emptied it, and took away the scrap metal, and I thought, I got a circle, what am I going to do with it? So you start out and you go, I just spent a small fortune on these plants. There's more enclosures behind there, okay? And then it grows into something like this, and then it goes into this, and that, and you end up sitting out there because, oh my gosh, there's your clear wing hummingbird moth, your clear wing moth. And they're called clear wing moths because their wings are clear. If you took a butterfly and very carefully held its wings, you could scrape away all those scales. It would be clear, okay? And when you tag butterflies for studies, you catch them, you scrape off a little bit of that powdery scale, and you stick that little sticker on there, okay? But these are clear wing, all right? And you can get those. Now, listen here. You don't do attractive for wildlife and then call me up and say, help, the Cooper's hawk is here eating my birds. Oh, those darn raccoons are here, the darn skunks, the darn opossums. They don't know that you don't want them. This is what we call nature. Now, look at that. Come on. I want to pinch that nose. I'm sorry, but whatever. Okay, we love opossum. Now, I'm very tolerant of wildlife, but you start ruining my stuff, and you go anywhere near my animals in the backyard, all games are off. Now, we do a lot of predator proofing, okay, and safeguarding, okay? But you start knocking down my feeders and dragging them away. But here's what I do. I am smarter than the raccoon. And I wish people would realize you can be smarter than the animals. Instead of getting a nuisance trapper to come out, because I don't care what they tell you, the laws say, if you catch a raccoon or a fox or a skunk on your property, you either release it back onto your property or it is euthanized. And they will not tell you that, but I'm promising you that it's the law. Okay. There are humane solutions to coaxing animals out of your home. Again, contact me. Okay. We have a company in Columbus, okay, that does humane exclusions. We're not telling you, oh, put up with the raccoons up in your attic or your chimney, okay? What I do is I'm going to show them I'm not a good hostess. You've shown up and it's gonna happen anytime now. This is the time of year. I have a big Rubbermaid container where I bring them into the garage. I take down all my bird feeders at night. Is it a pain in the derriere? Yes, it is. Okay? But after 2 or 3 weeks of not having a food source for the raccoons anymore, wow, she is not a good hostess. I'm leaving. Bye-bye. Okay? So guys, be smarter than these animals. Okay? But there are humane solutions. There are books written about it. I will be your contact once again. Okay? One of the books is called Living with Your Wild Neighbors. It's written by the Humane Society of the United States. Okay? But that's just part of it that shows up. Now, I don't mind that the skunks are out there, except that I have to go out there and make sure my dogs don't meet them at night. Okay? I don't mind that the possums are out there. The raccoons can be destructive. I'm bringing in the feeders and whatnot. So, everything within reason. Okay? But if you do have a problem, there are humane solutions that will have them move on without them having to be euthanized. How cute are they? And they're beneficial. You're looking at a former arachnophobic that now has 2 tarantulas. We have a very popular program, Animals We Love to Hate. It's all right to be afraid of bats, spiders, snakes, possums, you name it, but they all help us in some way. Insect control. Look at that. Those are those cute little jumping spiders. Do you know people are buying them and keeping them as pets? Oh yeah?
Everybody, we have an hour left.
Oh no, I do not. Okay, here's the reality check. Okay, I don't like to do doom and gloom, but this is reality. Nearly 3 billion birds have disappeared since 1970. Guys, I've been a bird watcher since 1989, and I've seen a difference in our bird population. Okay? 6.7 million bats have been lost since 2006 from white nose syndrome. Over the last 20 years, monarch populations have fallen by more than 80%. The decline of insects in various parts of the world have sparked warnings of an ecological Armageddon as a pillar of food webs crumble. Okay? Now, see these 3 gentlemen? Who are they, by the way? Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, Paul Newman. These used to be the guys that I fawned over. Not anymore. I'm going to show you my heroes. Merlin Tuttle, founder of Bat Conservation International. I met him 2 years ago. Okay? This is the bat expert of the world. I just got my button maker. So I made 2 buttons. One that says, I am the real Batman, and the other one says, I met the real Batman, and I have a picture of him and I standing together. Merlin Tuttle has traveled all around the world educating people about bats. Not only is he a bat expert, he's an expert photographer too. An unbelievable man. And this is Doug Tellamy.
Yeah.
There we go. Remember that lady I told you that has her own wellness practice? She's a nurse, and she started this nursery. I get goosebumps when I say this. She started that nursery because of his books. Doug Tellamy. In here, guys, Oaks, he's the one that wrote about oaks. He is the one that wrote Bringing Nature Home. We also recommend any books by Doug Tellamy, especially Bringing Nature Home. You know what I did? We never have a board meeting in December because we're all too busy. I gave my board homework one day, and I said, when we meet again in January, you will have watched one of the videos of his program, and one of my board members, she cries over everything anyway, but you know, she's one of those suffers. I cried watching it. This is this whole big movement that we've had about planting native. Look up Doug Tellamy. You can watch a video. If you get a chance to see him, he came to Denison University. Packed house. He talks about what he did with his 20 acres in Pennsylvania. We don't all have 20 acres, so what? You can do it on your property, and by golly, we had better. Because basically, and he started this little movement too, it's called, what is it, national parks? Something is what he's saying that you and I, whatever property that we own, is the biggest national park, and we need to make it as habitat for our wild animals. Because the powers that be, do they care? Nope. And one of these days, our yards are gonna be the only habitat they have, but collectively, I think we have 20 million acres. So guys, anytime you can see Doug Tellamy or read Doug Tellamy, watch him on YouTube, do it. It is life-changing. He's unbelievable. So he is the one. We're at a critical point of losing so many species from local ecosystems that their ability to produce the oxygen, clean water, flood control, pollination, pest control, carbon storage, etc. That is, the ecosystem services that sustain us will become seriously compromised. And I think, not to get on that soapbox again, that's where our politicians don't get it. And both sides of the aisle, okay? All right, there are his books. The Nature of Oaks, Bringing Nature Home, Nature's Best Hope, The Living Landscape. I think he's written another book. We can all do this. Closing thoughts. 98% of our animals that go into wildlife hospitals are due to human impact. I love cats. I have cats. Cats were my first love. Okay? I told my parents I am not going to school until my cat comes home. Okay? This is when I was a kid in Canada. You know what she was out doing, don't you? My parents didn't want to explain that to me, though. Okay, I'm not going to school. No, I'm not doing it until my cat comes home. All right, but my cats are all indoor cats because they kill 2.4 billion birds annually. Don't use glue traps. Dudes, this is the most inhumane thing. And that we can sit there and sell these things that slowly takes days for animals. Use a snap trap, for Pete's sakes. At least it's fast. I'm not telling you, well, Mrs. Vance says we're just going to have to live with traps. No. First of all, be smart. My garage is full of metal trash cans where I keep our animal food and our bird food, right? I'm not going to make it easy for them, all right? But if they continue, I'm going to use snap traps. I'm not going to use glue traps. It's inhumane. Rat poisons end up poisoning our skunks, our birds of prey, your neighborhood cat, okay? They end up eating those rodents. Don't use weed feeds and Roundup. There's other alternatives. It doesn't matter if you're from Ohio or not. If you go to owra.org, it will list all the local rehabilitators in every state. Okay? In Ohio, it lists the different wildlife rehabilitators for sick, injured, and orphaned wild animals, divided up by counties. There are humane wildlife solutions out there. What you can do, here we go, and it's on your handout. Follow Pollinator Friendly Yards Facebook, Healthy Yards, Wild Ones, Ohio Nature Education, Heights Native Pollinator. Join us in making every day Earth Day. We can all do it together. All my garden guests are wild. How about questions? We went through that rather fast. And guys, I'm going to apologize, but not really. I'm very opinionated about this stuff, but this is how I live my damn life. For me, this is not just, this is how we live our life. Am I perfect about it? No. But you know, I read an article one time about somebody, she was an adult, but she talked about as a teenager how she was overwhelmed because there were so many things that we faced. Okay, some of them we've talked about. She had some mental health issues too. But she wanted her parents and the whole house turned upside down. We had to do everything at once. Guys, start with one thing. It can be overwhelming. I mean, there are days where if I thought about it, I'd just pull the blanket over my head and not get up. But we got to keep doing what we're doing, right? One thing at a time. Wrap your mind around recycling, okay? I got that. Wrap your mind around. Let's not do invasive plants anymore. Do a little bit at a time, but collectively we can, excuse me, but kick some ass. Okay? All right, this is my darling little Bellatrix when she was a baby. She's a Eurasian eagle owl. All right? Questions? Comments? Yes?
How did you go about getting, like taking some of the moisture out of your backyard? Was it something that was like really swampy? I have a backyard like that, and I've been wanting to cultivate some plants, but there's not a lot that I can do.
All right, two things. Number one is I had tiles put in on one area of the yard, but guess what? We didn't want to have to put them in and cross the driveway, so guess what I did? I found a button bush. Button bush is a plant that lives, they can tolerate 2 feet of water.
Yeah, I was going to...
Woohoo! I planted 8 of them. They're living living in under this much water. What a perfect plant. So there are plants that are going to do really well there. Yes.
I was gonna say that there's some plants that
Sure.
actually thrive in that type of environment.
Yeah, and I just did research.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's, I don't remember what it is. When I say it, it's the, I don't remember what it's called, but it grows along streams and that they thrive along
Yes.
streams.
So there are actually, again, it was a local nursery, and I looked up, they broke it down, shade loving, blah, 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 whatever, can tolerate water. Plus one time I was up at my sister's, she lives on the St. Lawrence River, and what is this plant? What is this plant? And it was buttonbush. And when I found out they could live under 2 feet of water in this real wet area, I planted like, I get 6 or 8 of them, and they're native, and they're real good for pollinators. Win, win, win. Again, do some research. Okay? And you can do it. Doesn't matter how big. Yes? I'm sorry, would I recommend?
Weeping willows, would that be too dangerous as well?
Well, mine are in the front yard. My septic's in the backyard. Okay? So I didn't plant too many trees in the back, and that's good because that's where all my enclosures are, right? But I do have some weeping willows in the front.
Okay.
They're just not real strong in the wind and stuff like that. I have to tell you, the first winter I lived out there, and I planted all these trees, and here comes an ice storm. We moved in August, and here comes the ice storm. I was out there with a little screwdriver handle going, oh no, you're not, breaking the ice off my little trees. Okay. That's why I live out in the country, so my neighbors won't put me away. Okay, because when you live in the city, yeah.
Are there resources available for like HOAs that have a bunch of shared nature space and they want to go wild with it, but they don't have money to like maintain it? Are there like volunteer groups that'll come through and clear out invasives, replace them, or things
I would
like
get
that?
in touch with Wild Ones. Wild Ones is a national organization that has local chapters.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Your master gardeners. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, if you came home from work one day to find a bird had decided that the wreath on your front
Oh,
door was
God.
an excellent place to
House
build a nest.
finches.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the law. If there's no eggs in it, you can move the, okay.
Too late.
I'm the one that's going to make my husband and the whole family and everybody use the other door.
That's what we were figuring, but I figured I'd ask the expert.
To me, wildlife has the right of way in my yard because there's too many people that do the opposite.
Yeah.
I drive my husband nuts. That's why I told you he's a saint. Okay? Yes?
Suppose I have a yard but I'm renting, and I can just do a few planters on my back patio. What's like the most outside impact I can make from just a few planters?
Salvia would be good. Fuchsia for a potted plant. Again, go through and go to that National Audubon, put in your zip code, and they'll tell you annuals, perennials, that whole bit. Yeah. But just stick with that. But salvias are awesome. When I find out that somebody has a hummingbird in October, November, December, and they're eating off plants, I try to call them and go, what plant is it that they're going after? Because I need it, right? Yeah. So if you need help doing the research, I'd be happy to help. Okay? Absolutely. Email me, guys. All right. Other questions? Yes?
So I have an area that is full sun, somewhat sandy soil that just doesn't seem like it could really grow anything overall. Any habitats that would be good for?
I'm trying to think. I would amend the soil is what I'm thinking. Add some compost to it, kind of change it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been interesting to live on our property for 30 years because it used to be all sun. Now the back is full sun, but the front now I'm going to have to look at, and basically I'm losing lawn under the trees. Well, there are mixes out there, lawn mixes that you can put in there that are shade loving and it's not grass. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of native ferns.
Yes.
That love it.
Yeah. A lot of good information out there. And I'm happy to see these nurseries popping up, and we want to support local anyway. Yeah,
This is a bit more random, but what's your thoughts on like the use of groundwater?
the use of,
Groundwater,
what do you mean?
like, you know, like the large pockets of water in like reserves underground. Natural
I don't
reserves.
know enough about it to even answer that question, okay? And I mean, I'm honest, no. I don't believe in that, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit when I'm doing programs. I'm very honest, okay? I don't know enough about it. And that's how I kind of run Ohio Nature Education. Let's say you call me up and say, I want a program on geology or wetlands. Well, I'm not gonna let you walk away as a customer, but I'm gonna hire my retired naturalist friend to go and do it. And maybe learn something in the process, yeah. Okay, when you say that, it reminds me of, what are the gardens now that we're coming up with for the runoff off of your houses and whatnot? What are those called?
Retention gardens?
Rain
What?
gardens, bioswales.
Yeah. And again, your soil and water has all that information. Guys, there's so much stuff to do. I'm gonna run out of time before I can do all the stuff I wanna do, right? Amen. Yeah, what else? Yes?
If you could pick one battle with local government, like your city, township, and you want to go to a board meeting and say, I want us to take a stance on this natural thing, what would be the low-hanging fruit, winnable battle?
Well, because Johnstown is getting ready to go through some changes, I talked to them, I said, let's do bird-safe windows, let's do the lighting that points down, because lighting affects us too, and sea turtles and migrating birds and bats, the whole bit. So I gave them a whole list of stuff. I told them that we should be planting native trees. So I guess if I only had to pick one, it was the native plants, okay, the native plants. But I did talk to them about bird-safe windows and the lighting that points down instead of, I used to be able to see the Milky Way in my yard with binoculars. Everybody's putting up lights. So, but yeah, but I would say the native plant thing. Let's start with that. So, we'll see. Anything else? Yes, one more, yeah.
I've been thinking of going for more of like an actual fountain swing from Wild Birds Unlimited, but for right now, I just have a concrete standing bird bath. You had some mention on cleaning out hummingbird feeders and stuff. Any tips for keeping bird watering clean? Because I've had to just be at it like every few days and pretty much scrubbing it out.
I have to too. And mine's even under the trees, not out in full sun. It's just, we go through the same thing with the water bowls for our birds. In the winter, it's awesome because we don't have to fight algae. But I'll tell you what, if you don't clean it out real well, yeah. Moving water might help though.
Yeah, I tried to have a little like floating solar fountain, but
Yeah. How do those work?
it kind of did, and then it started growing on that, and I was like, okay, this is not helping.
Right. I would say if you can get it in the shade as much as you can, but even then, it's a challenge once it starts growing and whatnot. So yeah. Anything else? All right. I hope you learned some stuff. More than anything, I'm your resource if I don't mind being on the phone, the computer, and whatnot. And if you want to share stuff with me too, email me, please. Like I said, we're all going towards the same goal. And share some pictures with me and some successes that you have in your yard and whatnot, or your deck. I don't care what it is, but yeah. Okay, and enjoy it, and thanks for coming to the program. We'll be doing a bat program this afternoon. Okay, everything you always wanted to know about bats. All right.
There's a chairs in
Thank
the
you,
yard.
guys.
You can pick up any trash or anything
Thank you.
left. Take a quick sweep.
If you didn't get a handout, make sure you come up here and get one, please.
Also, anyone has plenty money for charity, so if anyone would like
Woohoo! Yeah.
wonderful event.
Donate for those mealworms. Do you need a handout? Yes. I'm just gonna, thank you. I'm just gonna pull this out and thank you for taking care of it.
No problem.
Yeah.